what does it mean? In a nutshell, I think it means this. We'll go a little bit longer, we'll push a little harder, and we'll think a little deeper and a little sharper. It means we're unbreakable. Like, to me, it means we'll play anywhere. We'll play on grass, we'll play on turf, we'll go to landfill, doesn't matter. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to bury you.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, can't relax. Original, I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they never ever mind and they beeswax. I don't ever cap, but I'm wearing like 3 hats. Never been a rat, but I know where the cheese at. You'll never get a trophy cause they all here where we at. You better believe that. When it's all said and done, I'll still be here standing. Never took a loss and it ain't something that I'm planning.
What is going on? This is the first episode of the first season of Nothing But the Smoke. I am your host, Beastrilla the Thriller. To my right, your left, is Uncle Rumble. We are here to talk about Lions training camp, the observations from joint practices with the Giants, the preseason, and other things Lions like right now. Uncle Rumble, how you doing there, sir?
I'm good, Beastrilla, man. Another year, another glorious year, man. I'm here. Happy to be here. I'm ready to talk Lions football, man.
I know that's right. We got a lot of Lions football to talk about. What we're trying to do here, so we're going to be on here Tuesdays at 8 o'clock, just to let you know, so that every Tuesday at 8 o'clock, we will be here talking about the Lions. When the regular season comes, we're going to change up just a bit because we're going to talk about the other 31 teams and during the regular season. So let's get started today with our observations from joint practices with the Giants. Now, I don't know about you, Rumble, but I thought there was too many fights, first of all. There was 10 fights in camp. That's just way too much. And I'm sorry. It's way too much.
Yeah, it's a bunch of egos involved, So it's these are the guys who were. It's a lot of. I think we're gonna get this from every team we play this year. Because we've been getting so much love from the media and from, other teams, really, other fans. So I think we're going to be getting everyone's best shot. And sometimes they may be cheap. Sometimes they may be egregious. Sometimes they may, tiptoe the line a little bit. But yeah, we have to be home. We have to be, we have to know that's going to come, and we have to be very disciplined, and then we have to match energy, we
got targets on our back, and then the Giants, we kind of whipped their ass last year in camp, so they're probably a little bit butthurt about that, so they're going to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Notice some things from the joint practices as well. Both secondary started slow. Neighbors and Jamin were running wild through them. Both sides had the quarterbacks were having a feast. The first string, and I'm just basing this off the first string,
right.
Teams. So
you're right. Yep.
And the
one thing I noticed with them is, of course, we got the video from Kayvon Thibodeau and Penei Sewell. There was talk, during that draft year, like, oh, we should draft him, and so it was good to see that. It was good to see him, Penei Sewell neutralizing him, rid all of that doubt. If people were still wondering, like, well, we had a chance to draft a guy opposite of Hutch, but And it's like, nah, that's not the guy. You know what I mean? Let's just that wasn't the guy, you know. But
Well, funny because Giants media was making it out that Thibodeau was you know dragging Sewell in practice, but he was against not Glasgow, but the left tackle
Decker,
Decker, yeah.
right?
So he was dragging Decker every now
You're
and
right.
then. Decker's not the greatest. He's good enough to keep people off of Goff.
Right.
He's not the best. He's not even our best offensive lineman. He's probably our last best offensive lineman. But at the same time, but to say, oh yeah, they're dragging Thibodeau. No, he's not. He's on the other side. And then when Thibodeau went to go to the other side, it was because they got into a fight. That was one of the fights that started. And with Panay practically got into it with the whole defensive line, but from the Giants. But
right,
whatever.
Right.
The Lions' defensive line didn't have a good first day, speaking of defensive line, but they bounced back the next day on Tuesday. So they did get to the quarterback quite often on Tuesday. I think the defensive line was just getting set, learning their lanes, and when to blitz, apply pressure. I think you got to remember, too, during practices, it's basically kind of vanilla defense anyway. You're usually using your brute strength and your intelligence to get around the edges or get through the line. So for that to happen the second day of practice for the Lions, that was really good.
Yeah. Again, we know what preseason's meant. It's where you work on your technique. It's where you work on those fundamentals. You know, like you said, driving, learning hand placement, those kind of things. So yeah, I'm glad they picked it up the second day with them.
Yeah, the Giants' defensive line was okay against the Lions' one offensive line, but the Lions' defensive line was more dominant, obviously, because we have a better offensive line than they do as ones.
Right. Yep.
The Lions' running game, 1 and 2 day, they were hitting on all cylinders. I mean, the running backs were just running through the defensive line like it was nothing. Can't say that for the running backs for the Giants. They were having a little bit of a hard time, but that's to be expected because, the Lions were number 2 in rush defense last year. We did have the crash combination of Monty and Gibbs as 1 and 2 running backs. So, and they finished, almost with 1,000 yards each. So
absolutely. Yeah. And, big void left in that run game with Saquon no longer being there. So again,
that's true too.
That familiarity with that O-line with Saquon versus whoever they have there now. I mean, it's not something you can just replace overnight. So
it's really that Giants offensive line because Saquon got pretty much squished last year too when they were playing joint practices with them. Right. So it's just that offensive line's not the greatest in the world. On some bad notes, Mosley was lost for the season. Well, most of the season with a vectorial issue. Again, Mosley is glass man, dude.
Mr. Glass.
I don't even know. I don't know why he better come back and play like way up. I mean, way up. Better than he plays. That he's supposed to be playing because he's gone as far as I'm concerned after that. And that's sad to say because injuries are not always the player's fault. They got put in bad situations, but dude, every year.
Yeah. And the pec, I think, you obviously can't do any kind of catching or movement of your arms, but to me, you should still be able to get your feet, use the ladder. You know what I mean? Work on your calisthenics with your feet, get that timing down. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe you can, just really work the tires, sprint, work on your, you know what I mean? But yeah, there shouldn't be, again, timing is everything in NFL. And to ask him to come back and absolutely make an impact right away when he's been away from the game for two years now, almost 2 seasons, it's going to be a tall task. But yeah, I'm rooting for the guy, man. Again, it's unfortunate, man, but one thing about Dan Campbell is, as we've been seeing lately, injuries, we got to fill that void with another player if we feel like you're not going to be available as quickly as we would like you to be. So
right. And I think that was the main reason why cornerbacks were a big issue in getting this season, and whether it was through via trade or free agency. I mean, we got a lot of good corners back there, decent corners that can take a spot if somebody goes down. Unfortunately, I believe Mosley was trying for that nickel back position with Rakestraw and Amik. So with both of them, but now that he's not a fit, I kind of thought Mosley would be a backup anyway. It's kind of funny to say that, even though we have two rookie corners that we got, but I just don't think that he was going to be. They weren't going to bring him back like that in a regular, in regular season mode unless somebody went down, and that would have been a great help to the defense. If somebody did go down, he would be able to step in there, but unfortunately, that is not the case.
Yeah, I think just the surge of Brian Branch and of course his college buddy Tyrion Arnold. I think that's him right there, man. They'll feed off each other. And again, Mosley, it's okay to be a background vocalist. You know what I mean? Even Whitney needed him. Even Mariah Carey needs him. You know what I mean? So it's not taking a dig at you. It's just saying, who knows? Maybe one of those guys would have been able to tip the ball and tip drill, and then you go scoop it.
Right.
But I didn't get that kind of ego from Mosley. He seemed very sincere, very down to earth dude, very excited for those young guys' successes. Of course, in the pressers when he was explaining it, he was very enthusiastic about the cornerback room. So again, sucks. I would have loved to see what he would have brought to what wrinkle he would have brought to that secondary. But again, maybe he can be a mentor on that sideline. Maybe he can observe the game, and tell him something that, Aaron Glenn might not be able to tell him. You know what I'm saying? He's played some of these guys, believe it or not, man. He's a veteran.
Yeah.
He played on one of the most stingiest secondaries in the league with San Fran. So there's not too many people he's seen, especially in the NFC. He went head to head against some giants in the NFC, man. You think of freaking DK Metcalf and some of these other giants on the NFC side of the
Lamb,
CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson. It's like, so he can still add something to that cornerback room, which I'm happy that he's still a part of the team, man. So yeah.
And then Arnold went out of day one session with a concussion, but he did come back. He cleared protocol and came back on day two and actually played really well. Sam Laporta didn't participate in joint practices. He was nursing a hamstring. Others that missed the Tuesday session due to minor injuries, Rodriguez, Iffy, and Zettler. Neiman, I think Nema, what's the offensive line that took his spot, played really well in his spot too.
Okay.
So that was good. That was a good thing for him because he's learning that on the first team. And of course, the NFL fined the Lions and the Giants $200K for those fights because
beautiful.
The devil Goodell, he said he wasn't having any of that no more because there was like 4 fights that happened last year in Giants Lions camp, and that was just a bit much. But we had even more this year, and he's like, that ain't happening. And I don't blame him on that either. And DC got real pissed off about that whole situation too. He said, we're not accomplishing nothing if we're out here trying to beat each other up. This is not a brawl. This is a practice. Come on.
Of course. Yeah, no, shout out to Roger Goodell. Hopefully that money went to be fair, hopefully it went to the respectable cities, Boys and Girls Club or whatever, Detroit and New York Giants. Well, they're where they at? East Rutherford. So hopefully it went to an organization as such. And that's shout out to Dan Campbell.
Giants, by the way. It's not New York. It's New Jersey Giants.
That's what I said. East Rutherford, New Jersey. So hopefully that money goes to kind of stuff like that as opposed to in his pocket. You know what I mean? Right. But yeah, shout out to Dan Campbell for letting these guys know, man. Hey, we're here to take care of business. Again, like I said, we're gonna get these kind of plays from other teams because we have the spotlight on us right now, man. So they're gonna do some dirty plays where potentially they could draw fines, take us out of field goal range. We have to be disciplined, not just get sucked into that stuff, man. And it's gonna be hard with some of these young guys, but yeah, man. Shout out to Dan for letting it be known, man. Hey, we're not gonna be we can't do that, man. This ain't gonna make us money. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Well, it's not gonna. Yeah, it's not gonna accomplish what we need to accomplish.
Right.
So now we're gonna go into the preseason game versus the Giants, which is halfway horrendous. It was rainy.
Just halfway. Yeah.
It was raining.
Yeah.
So it tapered off in the third and the fourth quarters, but it was raining pretty good. And it was kind of a misty, that nasty misty rain.
Yeah.
And it turned into like a nice little downpour, and then it kind of tapered off through the third and fourth quarter. So it was pretty messy out there in the first half. Nate Sudfeld, or as we like to call him, Nate Suckfeld, was ineffective driving the offense down the field that whole half. The running game was abysmal, which I was disappointed in because Craig didn't show his butt up. The defensive line started strong, got 2 sacks on Drew Lock by Nate Lynn and Isaiah Uku. And secondary held Lock to 17 yards with a pick by Brandon Joseph, which set up a 53-yard field goal by Bates. That was in the first quarter. And it wasn't too bad. I mean, they had a 3-0 lead, but the second quarter was where everything fell apart. The Lions finally got a first down of the game in the second quarter, which was hilarious. This is telling you Sudfeld and the running game wasn't doing anything.
Yeah. It was for somebody who was, had a few more years in the league. I felt like he did not. I feel like he was a rookie. I felt like he didn't know where to line up. I felt like he didn't know how to read coverages. We saw he held onto the ball. Just certain fundamentals that at this stage of the game as a QB, you should already have that internal clock in your head to get rid of the ball. He was holding on to the ball. He was just doing goofy stuff. And again, mind you, yeah, it's preseason, but just because it's preseason, just because you're allotted a certain amount of mistakes, this is what separates the Tom Brady's from the rest of the league, man. Tom Brady would have went out there and had a freaking 8 for 8 and would have set his ass down. You know what I mean?
And I would have just been happy if he's a 7-year veteran. I mean, you're not supposed to be playing like this as a 7-year veteran. You're out there doing rookie mistakes. And like in the second quarter, like again, as I said, the defensive line fell apart as far as the running game was concerned.
Right.
They allowed a 48-yard and a 1-yard touchdown by the Giants running back Eric Gray, which is probably, I don't know what, if he's the second team. I guess that's behind whoever they got starting now. Sudfeld was still not making any good decisions.
No.
He did manage to take the team into the red zone, but basically that was the Vaki show because Vaki's picked up. He came out there and was just blazing on him. The Lions were stymied by a giant sack in the red zone, and on the next play, Green gets a concussion. We'll talk about him in momentarily. And then Suckfeld throws a pick, but because the Lion players are on a hustle, it caused the Giants corner to fumble that ball that he picked off, and they recovered it. Fortunately,
Vaki again. Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, they were doing an awesome job. The defense was, and the offense, there was some good points and some bad points. I can't say it was like more like a 40-60, 40 good, 60% bad, maybe 30-70 at sometimes. So I mean, for the first half, it was Suckfeld running the team. It wasn't very good. And
I know that.
Craig Reynolds disappointed me too.
Yep. Again, you said it. All facets of the game struggled, man. Even the special teams. It's like I had to go back and look to see if they changed rules as far as fair catches, because again, he's a veteran of the game too. This is supposed to be his bread and butter here, man. And you have that internal clock in your head. At some point in time, you have to realize, okay, I better call it fair catch. And again, we give them the training, et cetera, but it was like, man, those cannot happen in December when those games matter. It's like you take the safe play and give your offense a chance to, put the game in their hands. You can't be the sole reason, because then at that point they'd be in field goal range, and then it's like, oh, game over. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, he's got to do better too, man. So
yeah, Gilly saved. Maurice Alexander had a horrible first half. He had 2 fumbles. Fortunately, Vaki recovered one of those as well. And then Gilly covered the other one. So after he got a holding, I said, fortunately, if he wasn't holding, then he wouldn't have been able to get the ball. But that's fine. Whatever makes it work, it worked. But yeah, Maurice Alexander, he looked too nervous out there. He looked like he wasn't confident in catching the ball. It was just bad for him. However, the guy that did make the difference was the other wide receiver, Isaiah Williams. He was out there. He did a couple of those and in the second half and was tremendous. Also receiving. He did a really good job.
yeah.
As we go into the third quarter, Hooker starts the first series, gets a first down and a 3-and-out. I think those were just, he was just getting used to stuff in the calls and making some throws. On his second series, though, Hooker made some good throws. He used his legs. He trucked the linebacker in a 16-yard gain. I think you might have saw that in the intro. He busted that guy pretty good. Yeah, I was like, look at this dude. He did a Stafford on him.
And he really put his shoulder, he put his shoulder into it, which is legal.
He was smart with it. It's
legal. And that guy wasn't expecting that. He's like, man, it's preseason. I bet he got come on, man. It's preseason, man. Number 6 is preseason, man. You can't be.
I bet you that linebacker got joked on by the whole rest of the team. You got ran over by the quarterback.
Oh, man, that was a meme.
You definitely ain't making a team.
They've been replaying that all week in Giants meetings. Like, yeah.
However, the drive that he started on the second series stalls on a 4th down play inside of Giants 5. During the drive, Hooker gets a concussion.
Yeah.
And he went out of the game. And then Suckfield came back in. Also, defensive lineman David Bada was injured. He has a potentially long-term Achilles heel injury. So he's going to be put out for a while. That sucks because he was playing pretty well too. Then we get to the fourth quarter. Sudfield's still at the helm. He was more effective in the second half. I got to give him that. He was more effective. He did the 17 yards. He got like 70 something else yards in the second, but because he finished like 96 yards. Yeah. So he did better in the second half, but he still had indecisive moments. He orchestrated a drive into the red zone. However, once again, came up short on 4th down. During the fourth quarter as well, offensive line Connor Galvin was carted off the field, and he's out for the season with a torn MCL, and they did waive him eventually after that. So unfortunate for Connor Galvin because he was one of the guys that we were looking at to be a backup on that offensive line. That's really bad that had happened. It's just that damn turf at
Yeah, it's one of those things where, this time of year, man, it's so hard. It's so hard as a fan, especially when there's, players who they've been given their all in this, man. And injuries slow him down. And he's one of those guys where I was like, man, you know what? If we can get him trained up on multiple positions on that O-line, man, I think it'll shore us up for sure. But again, those injuries, man, and even the one with Hendon Hooker, man. Again, I spoke on it earlier. I forgot the player's name and number, but he came in and it was helmet to helmet. He came in there.
It was a flag. Mm-hmm.
Right. It was literally at his chin, and it was with force. So, and he was already stationary. Hendon was. He still completed the pass, but it's that to me, I think, is what really caused the concussion.
It probably
because you can hear the pop. You know what I mean? And I'm watching it on TV, so I can only imagine what it sounded like in the field. So again, these refs need to nip that in the bud, man. I know for so many years they're like, oh, they're giving the quarterbacks, but it's like plays like that right there. versus some of these other plays that they have thrown the flag on, like that to me warrants a little bit more than what the penalty he got, man. It's like you got to get out of the game doing that, because that was, that was borderline egregious, man, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's not going to make you make a team either.
No.
Yeah, that wasn't very good for that. I'm sure that the coaches came out there with that guy that made that hit and got the flag. Was like, yeah, okay, that's not going to happen no more, buddy, or else you're not going to be on this team. We don't play like that. I'm not trying to hurt people out here. So now I get to a point where I'm going to do something every week, be it preseason or regular season. And I'm doing the good, the bad, and the ugly. In this game, the good, the secondary held up awesomely. Amik was everywhere. Rakestraw was everywhere. Arnold held it. Neighbors didn't get a catch. And this was the guy that was running all on them, during, joint team practices. So, I mean, something happened. Something clicked with the secondary that they held up. I mean, they only had, Locke had 17 yards of offense as far as passing is concerned. They sacked him like 3 times. They did an excellent job on him. So I give kudos to the secondary, even though it was kind of like our first string people out there. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And then the defensive line was leaky against the run. Didn't like that too much. You got to hold up against the run. That's something that we pride ourselves on, or that's something the Lions pride themselves on as far as defensively. That's the reason why on this offseason we didn't do too much with the defensive line, just added some personnel, and that's it, where we completely rechanged the secondary. So the secondary goes out there and plays up to par, but then the defensive line is leaky. So we can't have that. You got to have the run being stopped. And the ugly. Of course, when we say ugly, we mean Nate Suckfeld.
Ooh.
He was 13 of 24 for 96 yards, an interception. He had 3 carries for 14 yards and a 46.5 rating. Made more bad decisions than attempts, basically. He was just out there, he wasn't playing well at all. So, yeah, he was the ugly.
Yeah, my good will probably be Bates. Again, he hit a field goal. And again, there was talk, we were all talking like, oh man, he's looking a little skittish in practice there. But he goes out and, like you said, he puts our first points up on the board. The bad for me definitely is going to have to be that the D line again. Those guys are out there not knowing their, gaps and not, and then of course ugly. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Nate Sudfeld, again, almost, 3.5 quarters worth of play. You don't give us a touchdown. You don't give us anything to prove that you're the second stringer. Like anything to prove that you're a Lion. You look like Dan Orlovsky running out of the back of the end zone. You just look like a deer in headlights, man. Like, you didn't look like a quarterback for
not
sure.
Not Danny O in the backyard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like, bro. So.
Yeah. So now we come to the transaction report where we have the moves that were made by the Lions this week. Again, I just want to reiterate that Connor Glavin was waived on an injury, that he got compensated. Hopefully he comes back at full force. Either he plays for another team or he can come back to us. That would be great. But we had to release him. Nate Lynn was placed on IR, which is another bad thing because he was one of our promising defensive lineman guys who back up. We did sign linebacker Abraham Beauplan and tackle Jamarco Jones. We also recently signed Jack Fromm, quarterback. I don't know what's going on with Hendon Hooker. I don't think they know what's going on with Hendon Hooker too much either. They probably won't know until Friday. But hopefully that he can come back in and then we can have 3 quarterbacks playing in this preseason game. I would me personally, I'd probably put Hendon Hooker at the end just to make sure that he is good, and have Fromm and Sudfeld battle it out for whoever we're going to keep as third string, because Fromm better go out there and throw, be Joe Montana out there, because I don't want to see Sudfeld on this team. I really don't. I have problems with that. I would be worried very much if something happens to Hooker and we have to be stuck with Sudfeld. We also did sign Ty Summers. We released, amazingly enough, a waived Antone Green, wide receiver. Obviously, the concussion he got was a little more serious than people thought it was. I heard it was a neck injury as well. Jeez. He really wasn't, in my opinion, he really didn't show too many flashes after he made a big first week in camp. Other than that, he kind of went downhill. So.
Yeah, that injury was like one of those freak injuries too, man. I remember they replayed it a couple of times, and it was just like, damn, like that's his where he was at in correlation with the guy running. It's like, yeah, man, it just sucks. It's just unfortunate, because he's not even a tackler. He's a wide receiver. You know what I mean? So
you're right. Yeah,
he was going in for a block of some sort, and
yeah, used his head instead of his brain.
Yeah, it just looked weird, man. It was like, wait, what? You've never done this before? Okay, you know, man.
And then we also released Ike Bodiger, offensive lineman. I thought that was going to be promising. I thought we were going to be able to keep him because he was doing pretty good in camp too. But because of the cornerback issues that are going on, by the way, Jahmyr Gibbs went out. As well as Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold went out on a Monday's practice, which they did in the evening. Don't have an update on Jahmyr. Well, we don't have a definite update on Jahmyr Gibbs yet. Well, all we know is he has a hamstring injury, but they did say he was pretty much going to be good to go for the regular season. So that to me means it might be a strain. We'll see. There's really not been any dedicated news to that whole situation. We did find out Terrion Arnold has a small pectoral injury, but he will not miss any time, and he'll be starting in the regular season. So we don't know anything about Rakestraw. I think Rakestraw might just had a hurt leg.
I think it was it was like a ankle sprain of some sort.
Yeah, he'll be okay. But they did sign cornerback Esang Baisley and waived Deron Gilbert. Deron Gilbert was another guy. A linebacker that I thought was going to do pretty good, but they just got rid of him because I think they're not going to probably have Terrion Arnold starting
this week
in precinct. Yeah, this week. So they're going to sign a guy to back up. So probably a Vildor. Vildor will be out there playing alongside with hopefully Rakestraw will be there.
Yep.
And of course the usual suspects. Gilly will probably get more playing time. That will be good. I want to see Gilly out there doing something. So,
show me some, Gilly.
Yeah, that's our transaction report, and hopefully that we have better news as far as nobody being injured and having to be replaced by some guy that's just going to fill a roster spot until these guys get better.
Yeah, it's kudos to Dan Campbell for doing the practices at a different time of the day. Not all of our games are going to be 1 p.m. We're going to have some night games. What better way than to simulate that? You know what I mean? So look, again, these are guys who most of them we know are going to be on the roster, and these other guys we don't know where they're going to be at, practice squad or the roster. But yeah, again, I was scared when I heard about Jahmyr Gibbs, and then now it's getting kind of it's like, okay, he'll be ready. So that's always a promising thing. And then, of course, Terrion Arnold, I was like, oh, no, because, again, CJ, GJ last year, and, of course, Mosley. And, me and you were talking about it. You're like, what are these cornerbacks doing in our team, man? Like, why are all of them getting
injuries? Yeah.
Right. What are they?
I'm not understanding that.
Yeah. So, but, yeah, again, it's what preseason is about. We lick our wounds, next man up. And hopefully we'll get our complete team by the time the season starts, man. So I'm juiced for that, man. They don't sound like it's too bad with these injuries, So
yeah, Hopefully we're treading lightly here. Like I said, I just went out and seen if we had any updates on Jahmyr Gibbs, and there's no updates. So as far as we know, he just has a strain, and he'll be ready for the regular season. So he wasn't going to be playing any. I don't think they were going to have him play any in the preseason anyway, him or Monty.
Right.
If they did, they're going to play a series. I think they're going to do that the last game of the season, especially at Ford Field against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They might do that. But other than that, just to get the blood flowing and chopping them at the bit, so the next week comes, it's regular season because they play on Sunday prime time, I believe, with the Rams. So that'll be we got to see what's going on there. Now, the question for you is, Uncle Ron.
Yes.
Who are your camp standouts so far?
Oh man, we kind of touched on them. Pause. Sione Vaki. I think right now, I think only because I didn't see him. I heard a little bit about him in camp, but then when the lights came on against the Giants, you know, he seemed like he'd been here before. And again, this is one of the guys I was high on pre-draft. So when we drafted him, I was like, man, this kid's a utility knife. Again, he was the whole Utah Utes offense and defense at times. But yeah, this kid's very poised. And I feel like that is going to catapult him in these next few games. I think him going back and actually seeing himself against the Giants on TV, things like that. I think he's going to be like, oh man, I belong here. And then obviously the other guy, rookie, quote unquote, Jake Bates. I mean, we've been hearing about him in camp. Again, he played a game. He played against the Giants, made a kick in a simulated game, and now I hear he's been kicking the hell out of the ball in camp. And a last play in camp, which I believe was Monday, he kicked a 63-yarder. Which probably saved the guys from having to run or do any other drills. You know, he drilled that kick in camp, and everybody was cheering for him. So that's what I like to see right there, man. You know, so hats up to those two guys, and I look forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, the people that impressed me the most, the players that impressed me the most on there, about three of them. Surprisingly, one of them, I said was going to probably make the roster anyway. Brandon Joseph. Obviously, he's shown when he can. He's been having a very good training camp, and obviously, he did very well. He was all over the place in the preseason game too. He was another guy. He's either making a tackle. He was in the right spot to make the pick. So he's out there doing his job, and I think he's gonna. I think that's why they're going to keep five. If at the best, if they keep four safeties, he's going to be one of those four safeties. I think.
Yeah, he's making a hard argument right now for them to not cut him. So absolutely.
Yeah, and Rakestraw is doing way beyond what I thought he was going to do. He is playing lights out. Well, he's training lights out. He was out there in coverage against Neighbors during the preseason game a couple of times and held his own with him. And they just shut down, like I said, the secondary shut down everything in the preseason game. And you can consider this now. Rakestraw's not considered first team material yet. They're still trying to work him along, but he is playing like a first string corner. And that's what I like to see about that whole situation with him. Isaiah Williams. I told everybody this dude's going to make the roster. He's going to make the roster. The dude he is a football player. Now he doesn't have the best, he hasn't had the best camp, but like I said, there's people that practice bad and there's people that play the real game good. Mm-hmm. And there's people that don't play the real game good and practice well. Yep. And he is the guy that is the other. He doesn't train well. He's not the good practicing guy, but he goes out there and puts his heart on the line during games. Right. He showed out. He had a nice returns when he was given the opportunity to return the ball. Mm-hmm. He also was his receiving abilities were on display. He did very well there. Again, him and Hooker had a very good connection. Yep. I want to see that continue. I want to see him continue to grow. I think he's one of the long shots to make the wide receiver roster, but I think he'll do it because I think everybody else is kind of like dropping the ball, and this is what DC said. He was kind of
dying
hoping
to see one of
somebody
them
would,
step up.
yeah, take the reins on something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of same with Hendon Hooker too, man. We've heard like mixed reviews as far as camp goes, and then like you said, game time, dudes out there like, yeah, nah, this is where I belong right here.
Right.
You know, I think sometimes you get so complacent in camp, like drill. It's like, no, I want to hit somebody.
Yeah, I think another thing too is the players, when you're in training camp or doing joint practices, the coaches are practically on top of you anyway.
Right.
So if you do, and you're being a perfectionist like some of these football players are, they're always worried about the coach yelling at them. Yep. Now, like one of the joint practices, Hooker took the third team down there and scored a touchdown, but it wasn't the play that was supposed to be. Ben Johnson had a hissy fit on him and ate stuff on him. Right. So those are the differences in a real game. Well, in a preseason game, when you're out there against pads, uniforms, out there in the bright lights in a field, the Friday night lights, basically, they send the step up because the coaches are on the other side of on the field, but they're way away from you.
Right.
All they're doing is talking through your helmet, so you can say, shut the F up on the headset. You know what I'm saying? I got this. They're not going to come out in the field and beat the hell out of you like they would on training, on a regular field. So, or cuss you out. They might cuss you out through the helmet, but they're not going to come out there and cuss you out like they can do in training camp. So it's a different. As long as you're away from the mom and the pops, you know what I'm saying. You can go out there and focus your game. And I think Hendon Hooker is one of those guys that it's a lot of those players that are stepping up in preseason are the players that are like, good, I don't got these people breathing down my back. I can play my game, and that's what they do. And they remember what's taught to them out there, but at the same time, I'm doing this, so I don't have nobody breathing down my back, and that's good. That's good for these players. Speaking of the camp standout so far, who do you like in our rookies?
Yeah, I'm going to go
with Vaki.
I'm going to go with Vaki as far as, just where he was picked. You know what I mean? Again, I kind of expected that with Terrion Arnold. Again, an Alabama cornerback. Those guys are always fun to watch. Right, first round pick. But Vaki, I think he could be one of those spark plugs, man. And that's what he was. Nate Sudfeld wasn't doing the greatest. And then of course, when we lost Hendon Hooker, we were looking for that spark. And boy, did he deliver, man. You know what I'm saying? He's got a little wiggles. He made some plays, and I was impressed. And he made plays even when he wasn't given the ball. You talked about the fumble recovery, the presence of mind to jump on the ball and not try to scoop it up. If you're in threat of trying to make a team, you're going to try to make the biggest play you can. And it's like, you have a tendency to want to scoop the ball, and now the ball goes out of bounds and it's their ball. But he was like, nope, I'm diving on the ball. So I think he's wise beyond his years, man. Like, you could tell he really wants this. So, and he looks good in the Honolulu blue. You know what I mean? So he's definitely
who don't.
Right, that's it. So he's definitely there. And again, I'm gonna go with the kicker. We knew what he was doing. You put me up on game with him in UFL. And again, for him to be out there now with that lion on his chest and helmet, I think he's gonna prove to win us some games this year, man. I got a feeling about this kid. So he didn't choke. He made a kick, and to be honest, he looked like he had another 7 or 8 yards on the end of that thing, man. It's like when he kicked it, it went through, and it didn't just like barely scrape in, man. He still had a few yards in that thing, man. It was just like, oh yeah, this kid's for real, man. He's got a leg. This is what we've been seeing and hearing. So yeah, those two for sure, man. I think their numbers are going to get called, and I think they're going to be ready, man.
I think in preseason, this is how it's going to work. If it's if it's shorter than 50 yards for making a field goal, Dan is going to go for it. If it's 50 plus or more, he's going to trot that Bates. He's going to trot Bates out there and see if he can kick a 60, 63, or 50. He's going to keep that leg strong. He's going to, work him and see if he can make these an accurate. Let's see. Now we're playing in Kansas City next week, or
The
this
wind will
coming
probably
up
be
week.
swirling.
And the wind probably might be, it's Kansas City. You don't tell them
Yeah.
what kind of weather you might get there. So, and it might be hot. Hot's bad for kickers too. It's the ball's more slippier. It's foot placement's a little bit weirder. So there is a thing with these kickers. Just don't think, oh, he's a kicker. He don't do nothing. No, you when you kick the ball, there's a lot of elements that go into kicking that ball. People just don't realize that.
Right.
So I got you on that one. But I'll tell you the guy that I've been looking at pretty much in training camp. He's been doing a fair job again in training camp, and he had his coming out party on the preseason game. It's Isaac Ukwu, and that dude, he's going to be something special.
Right.
I think Dan Campbell said it the best in one of his pressers is that they have defensive linemen that do different things, and there's some that run tackle or do run defense better, and there's others that do pass. Man, Ukwu, that dude was all over the place, and a lot of that stuff ain't going to show up in this. But he was making good tackles. He did have a tackle for loss. He also had a sack. The dude was all over the place when he was out there. So I hope that he continues that prevalence all the way through training camp and all these preseason games, and he makes the team because he's a fast guy and he's smart. I watched him in the preseason game and what lanes he took, and he was looking for the ball the whole time. Now he understood where his lanes were at, and he used them. If somebody got jammed up in the lane, he just went around. So he's on that path. I'm liking what he's doing.
Yeah, good deal. Yeah, no, we could always use the help on that D line. Again, we're still working on a couple injuries as far as the guys we picked up, Davenport and Reeder. So yeah, we could use the help. We know last year Hutch was the only, Hutch and Aleem, you know what I mean? And it was like, okay, you neutralize those two guys, you pretty much
that's one side of the ball. We can just run to the other side or do everything on the other side.
Your quarterback had all day to throw, man. I don't know how many times I heard freaking these quarterbacks, oh, he's got all day to throw. It's like, yeah, no, gone are those days.
Pressures are good. We want these pressures to turn into sacks.
Exactly.
Aiden Hutchinson did all he possibly could. He got all those pressures on the quarterback, but it is good for you to go out there and turn those pressures into sacks.
Yeah,
and that's what the Lions need to do more on the defensive line. Get that quarterback uneasy. Get the offensive lineman second guessing. They start doing that, they're going to start producing. Getting those sacks, causing turnovers. That's the whole point of the situation. Now, a question that I need to ask. I'm seeing that a lot of times that the Lions are making transactions for, injured players or whatever. They're doing a lot of linebackers. Now, they did have Houston play linebacker, and Dan said he was going to move him back to the DN because he feels he's more comfortable with that, which is probably a good thing. But at the same time, I'm kind of wondering about, is our linebacker core the weakest part of our team right now? Because, which is going to lead me into this question, because they've been signing linebackers from all over the place. We got all kinds of linebackers on here. It's like they can't find a linebacker that's going to do something good.
Right.
In that sense, if it comes down to it, should the Lions sign or trade for a name linebacker like Judon or Reddick or another good linebacker out there that's a free agent? Should we do that? I mean, because linebacker is our weakest spot on the team, and if they're just trying to do anything to put people out there as a linebacker, that's telling me they don't have confidence in their linebacking core.
Yeah,
I don't know if that has to do with the starters or if that has to do with the backups. I don't know what's doing this drive with all the linebackers that they're just getting off the street basically.
Yeah. No, for sure. I haven't really heard too many haven't heard too much as far as the linebackers, good or bad. Even in training camp, I know I did see that Jack Campbell's name was mentioned a couple times. But yeah, I mean, right now with this team, the way it's built, I think we have to be mindful of who we bring in as far as linebacker. Again, we don't want to stunt Jack Campbell's growth. We don't want to stunt Malcolm Rodriguez's growth. But again, these guys aren't going to be able to grow if they're not out there in that field during live game reps. So yeah, I mean, you got to kind of, give these guys enough rope to, hang themselves. If it's too much being put on their plate, I think you use the preseason to determine that and then go from there. But I don't know. I kind of like our guys that we drafted. I kind of like the guys we have now. I mean, Anzalone, we know him. We know what we're going to get from him, aka Thor. But I think honestly, if we bring a big name guy in and he doesn't fit our team and he's not what this team's about, I think it could ultimately end up, it could be one of those Bob Quinn, Trey Flower hires where it's like you're 10 years you're 10 years out of away from this team. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't fit this team, and clearly you can see the way these guys draft, these guys that they've been drafting fit the team. I don't know how they do it. They do their homework, but yeah, there's some good linebackers out there, but much like CJ last year, did he fit the team? Was that was he a good fit?
That was bad. I think that was a bad hire by the Lions, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. So, do we want to repeat that, or do we want to shape these guys that we drafted? I think, let's be honest. I think Rodriguez, we still have yet to see what he is. Again, he's like Jalen Reeves-Maybin. They're trying to put him in different spots because they know the kid's a playmaker. They just don't know what. And again, we saw him hit a couple of times last year where he laid the lumber on some of these guys. So we know he belongs in the league. It's just, to your point.
They took a chance. They're taking a chance on DJ Reader and Davenport. Davenport, I wasn't really comfortable with them getting because I don't know if he has the grit to beat it. I know DJ Reader does, but it's like these two players here, Judon and Reddick. Now, Judon's getting a little bit on my nerves because he's acting like a diva.
Yeah, he wants a lot of money.
Reddick he's pissed off because they traded him to the Jets. Philadelphia did it, Jets, on a Jets promise that he would get paid once he got there before the regular season. Right. They still haven't done that. They're playing with him.
Right.
And I would be mad too if I was Reddick. Now, I'm not saying Reddick's not going to go out there and do his job because he's not. He's a gritty guy. That dude's been putting up sack numbers every year. So I would think that if the Lions got him, if they traded for him and they paid him immediately, he would pay dividends on that team. I do. I think that with Judon too at first, until he started going through his tirade through the rest of this training camp. I was like, dude, come on, man. Stop disrespecting people like that. Just chill. And Riddick is just sitting out. So he's already up to $1 million in fines. Obviously, he's serious about getting paid. That's why I accepted the trade here, because you said you were going to be able to cover my contract before the regular season starts. That's what, if you have that promissory note from the owner of the team that's going to happen, you expect that to happen. And he said, I'm not playing until I get paid. And if I'm not, that's a sucky attitude. People think that's a sucky attitude, but that's the reason why the reason why he picked that, because Philadelphia gave him an option to go to the Jets. They said, you can go to the Jets, and the Jets made him that promise to pay him. And if you don't make a payment to somebody that you promised you're going to make a payment to, I'd be kind of pissed off too.
Yeah.
It got nothing to do with playing at that point. Yes, just, that's just fundamentals, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, these franchises are still playing with these guys' money, man. I remember, I'll bring up Dak, for instance, man. I remember, the Cowboys, and I hate talking about the Cowboys, but he was just one of those guys where you could tell he did everything for the team, everything they asked of him to do. And it was like, it was his turn to get paid. And much like Jerry Jones is doing now, he was like, when the time's right. Well, and it's like, these players have a short span in this league. If you're lucky, you get a Tom Brady decorated career where you're playing, 12 plus years. But yeah, this guy, if that was told to him right now, kudos to Dan Campbell and Sheila Hamp. Transparency is everything. So gone are those days where those franchises can get away with it and just franchise tag you, because social media is so huge now. It's like, no. We talked to Reddick while he was a Eagle, and this is what he said the Jets were going to do for him, yada, yada. So it's like, you got to hold these people accountable, man. You know what I mean? So if I'm with him, like, what is $1 million when you stand a chance to make tens of millions? You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
and as soon as they need him, they're gonna have to pay him more. I'd tell him, man, you got to pay me more for wasting my time. You know what I mean?
And he's
But
not going
he's
to go
got
out there. He's not going to go out there in training camp or practice or play in any preseason games if that's what they choose to do with their starters, and get hurt.
But
then
he's got to
you're
keep
messing up. Yeah,
exactly. He's got to keep himself in shape. Even though you're not out there in the field, make sure you're in that gym. Make sure you're lifting. Make sure you know what I mean. That way, they don't have anything to use against you. You know how this league. Oh, he came in 5 pounds overweight, and so we're just gonna pay him. It's like, nah, bro.
And that's something I don't see Reddick is not going to do. I think he's going to keep in shape and get himself together like he always does. Right. I think another thing these owners got to realize, they're dealing with human beings. The football players are still human beings. Right. They're going to have emotions based on what you say. Like Jerry Jones had to come back and say something because he said that, it wasn't a priority. It wasn't really a emergency to be signing these guys to the contract. You can't be saying that. You can't say that. And these players will take it like, you don't give a damn about us. And basically that's what Dak and CeeDee Lamb said. CeeDee Lamb just washed his whole all his social accounts with, washed all the Dallas Cowboys stuff out of his social accounts.
And we know how these wide receivers are.
You get to this point when you do that to a player, man, you've done something wrong. Pay these guys, or keep stuff under the table. You tell them, look, we're trying to work with this, and we're trying to see how we can move some money around to get you paid, because a lot of people will say, well, these owners have plenty of money. Yeah, but you only have a specific amount of money you can spend every year. And cap numbers go up every year. That's all untrue, but you still have, if you have a team that has a whole bunch of superstars on it, you got to figure out how you're going to pay everybody. The Lions are going to be in that position in a few years.
Absolutely.
So that you got to know where to, who to pay first and who not to pay, who to pay second. So.
And if we're, especially with the CeeDee Lamb situation, man, he still has one of the most popular selling jerseys. Mm-hmm. So there's people that come to, Cowboy Stadium just to watch this guy play. And it's like, yeah, Jerry, I get it. It's Jerry's world, et cetera, et cetera. But this guy has done nothing but deliver when his number's been called. So if you don't want him, I'm sure there's 31 other teams will, and they'll rub it in your face too. And they will, if you play that team that picks him up, he's going to show up and show out on you. And then what? You're going to be kicking yourself in the rear. Because now, like you said, you're going to have to pay Dak. He's coming up. You're going to either have to trade him or draft another QB. And he's getting up in age. And these are the decisions, like you said. Would you want a not so bad receiver? Somebody who could still torch 31 other teams in the league? Or do you want a guy who's, let's be honest, man, he's getting up there, and he's not going to be worth anything in a couple of seasons, man. If he doesn't get anything going with these next couple of seasons, you can pretty much, they're going to rebuild that whole offense. So you rather rebuild without a true number one receiver, or would you rather just take the aging QB away? So we've seen what happened with the Rams. You know what I mean? With the deal they did with us, you know what I mean? They felt like Jared Goff wasn't that guy. We were able to get him, and we were able to get rid of our agent superstar. And it worked out for both teams. So I don't think the Cowboys they don't have that pull because of this is what they're doing now to their current superstars and CD Lamb. So, again, Philly's doing the same thing with Reddick, man. If you told this dude that you brought him here, you were willing to do that for him, shame on you, because we've seen guys get some gaudy contracts. Daniel Jones got a gaudy contract. Was he worth that? No. But honestly, they feel like he's a good enough quarterback that they can use him. That was a guy they drafted. But yes, a player like CD Lamb, again, he's one of those guys, man. You have to keep him on this team one way or another, man. I feel like he would get along with any other QB. If Dak should happen to, which he did last year, if Dak should happen to be injured, I feel like a QB, that would be their favorite target, because the guy he plays ball, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Dak. Like I keep trying to tell people, Dak is a great quarterback. He had statistics regular season wise comparable to Mahomes. Okay, the problem with Dak, people make the assumption because he's a quarterback, he's a leader of the team, that because they can't win playoff games, it's because of him. No, It's not just because of him. There's 22 guys that are on that field, and 53 that contribute to the team. They just have a bad, piss poor moral value when it comes to the playoffs. I don't know what it is. It's like their whole team shuts down during the playoffs. It's kind of like
Mike McCarthy.
It's got to be. It's coaching. That's all it is to me. Mike McCarthy is terrible. He's horrible.
It's got to be. He's always like got his arm folded. He looks like Patricia sometimes. He's like,
yeah,
that didn't work.
Yeah, it's like you figure it out.
Yeah, like we tried everything. It's like,
it worked during the regular season. How come it didn't work now? And then the other guy that they need to pay is Micah Parsons. But Micah Parsons would probably be the last person I'd be paying, because first of all, he's another one that dips in the playoffs. He don't do nothing in the playoffs. The last two, when he's a rookie and in his sophomore year, he didn't do nothing in the playoffs. You can run right through him. So it's I mean, you could be regular season warriors as a team all you want to, but if you get in the playoffs, you're disappointing your fans. You're causing the media to scrutinize Dak. You're causing them, and CD Lamb, to me, is beyond the fault of this. CD Lamb is the guy. He is the guy you should pay first.
Absolutely.
Then Dak, then Micah. And if they can't figure that out, then I don't know what they're going to do. If they're not going to pay Dak, and they pay Micah, well, good for them. But I'll tell you what, Mike keeps saying the right things too. He's like, well, I want to retire a Dallas Cowboy. I said, that's never going to happen, because Dallas ain't going to keep you long enough to do that. That's not even believable in this day and age on the franchise. So that's not going to happen. But it's nice thought. But he always, he's a Philly kid. You never know. He might want to go to the Eagles.
Right. Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
But yeah, it's hit or miss on things like that. I just, the Lions really got to realize certain things. I know a lot of people want the Lions to make a lot of, like, they want to sign Danielle Hunter. Well, they probably talked to Danielle Hunter. See, a lot of things people don't understand is outside. So why aren't they even talking? They are probably talking to Danielle Hunter when he was, a free agent. But maybe they just didn't like some of the stuff he had to say. And they just said, well, he's not going to be part of our culture because he's acting this way or he's acting that way. I'm sure that the Lions have talked to a lot of these big name free agents to see what their mindset is. That's what they do. This is a difference between like other organizations like San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Dallas. Well, I ain't going to say Dallas really right now, but Pittsburgh and San Francisco, people that, and Buffalo even, those kind of teams that have success over the years, they'll sit there and talk to these players and see where their head's at and see if they're going to be right for their culture. And you never know. The Lions could be talking to Judon. They could be talking to Riddick or any of the free agent linebackers that are out there, and you just don't hear something that, like, well, Riddick right now, he's asking for a trade. And, of course, the Jets are doing the San Francisco thing, saying we're not going to trade him. So, well, then pay the man. Stop sitting there and playing with his feelings and his paper. Go out there and pay the man so he can be on your team. He has no problem. He said, as soon as I get paid, I'll be out in that field, giving 150%. He said that.
Right.
If you hear that coming from the player, then do something.
You gotta
Don't
take him
sit
at his
there
word.
and play tiddlywinks with him because he's a grown man. He's a grown ass man. You playing with that man's paper. Stop doing that.
And Robert Saleh could use him.
Yeah.
You know, like he could absolutely use him, man. Like that's his.
I mean,
that's his.
you add Reddick to that defense is already pretty damn good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You add Reddick to that whole man, that defense is going to be really good.
Right.
I mean, they're going to be a top 3 defense in the league.
And see, this is who. This kind of goes into our next question about our defense. You know what I mean? Like, where do you see our defense as far as our expectations on the defense? Where would you like to see these boys?
As far as the defense is concerned, well, you mean I want to see Aaron Glenn. This will probably lead to our next question. What our expectations is for Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. For the defense, I expect the secondary and expect the defensive line to perform admirably. I want our defense to go. I think we were 17th, 18th last year as a whole defense.
Right.
Because our run defense was solid. It was just our pass defense that sucked. So I would want to see us come up to like top 10 defense. If we can get up into that top 10, people are saying, well, I don't care if it was 15 or 12. But you got to remember something. Kansas City won the Super Bowl with a top 2 defense. Defense matters in the playoffs.
It does.
It matters. And regardless of what the Lions did last year, the reason why they were doing so good in the playoffs because you had to stop that offense, which not many of the defenses in there could stop. Now, we were running up and down the field on these teams, L.A., Tampa Bay, San Francisco to a point, and we were still kind of running up and down the field in the second half. It's just that nothing happened for them. So it's just a fact that now that we're focused on the defensive side because we got the offensive side straight, that's what we need to be. If our offense is in the top 5, we need our defense to be in at least the top 10. And AG has no excuses. He has no excuses. Unless 3 or 4 people in key positions get hurt, he got no excuses this year.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's fair. I agree. I agree with you. I think Aaron Glenn is on the, so much was talk last year. He didn't have his guys. And then on top of that, at times I felt like he didn't have the guys prepared too. But yeah, again, with that addition from the D-line guy we brought in from the Titans, whose name is I gotta look up his name, but we brought that guy in. I think that's another part of the defense that Aaron Glenn's not going to have to worry about. I think he's going to have that D-line ready. I think they're going to be more of attacking this year, more so than they were last year. I felt like last year they were just dropping into coverage, dropping into that prevent coverage that we've known them to be, keep the ball in front of you. I think this year we're going to get a much more attacking defense. And then, like you said, man, if our run was top 5 last year, our secondary has to at least be top 10 this year. And it's got to balance out. That way we can keep these teams, keep their offenses off the field and keep our offense on the field. And we know what Ben Johnson was capable of, man. He was putting up some high points the year before, 32, 35 points a game. And it was more than one game. Like he would string together these high point output games every week. So, like you said, I think our wins and losses right on this defense this year, more so than the offense. The offense it's been right on the offense. I think this year,
3 years. Mm-hmm.
Right. I think this year the defense is going to have to bear a lot more of that burden. It can't be on an offense. We're going to have our, like you said, we've been doing this without a freaking a kicking game. Like we have been doing this without a kicking game. If we're being honest, we've been doing this without a kicking game. Dan Campbell going for it in a fourth makes no sense to the average
to be
novice
fair
fan.
On that point, Badgley made every single field goal he kicked last year. He was 7-7, including 3 of 3 in the playoffs. So it's not like the kicking game wasn't working. He did miss one extra point, but whatever. but it's just the fact that Dan Campbell's aggressive style of going for it on 4th down. I don't think it had anything to do with the kicker. I just think that he wants to catch teams by surprise and say, look, we're manning up and going for it on 4th down. I don't care if it's 4th and 5. My men against your men. I know my men will win that. That's what it is. And that's his mentality. That's Dan's mentality right there.
Yeah.
Dan is the Chuck Norris of NFL coaches in the NFL. Okay, so I'm gonna beat your ass. So I think, and on the flip side of the Aaron Glenn and the defense, I think all I want to expect for Ben Johnson is better third quarters, better ways to utilize the offense on third quarters instead of just hacky sacking it along.
Yeah, I feel like those.
Good.
Yeah, those guys come out flat, man. They should be able to. You should have that same intensity, in the first quarter. Get those guys reignited, man. Let them know, hey, man, this is the second half. We got to come out here and go balls out, man. So I agree with you on that. I felt like, again, San Fran, we were up, we were shocking the world, and yeah, it fizzled out. I don't know what those guys did at halftime. But yeah, we absolutely have to be better in the second half. We have to be better all 4 quarters, really. But yeah, I need Aaron Glenn to not go back in coverage so much, like be more aggressive, man. Whether, when he started doing that last year, especially with, the safety where he was blitzing him and he was coming from, 15 yards away. And he was blitzing against the Broncos. He started showing wrinkles of that stuff right there. It was beautiful to see, because they weren't expecting it. The quarterback's got his back to him.
I thought that was the game that Dan Campbell actually took over the reins of defense for a while because of the bad defensive decisions he was making.
It could have been. I don't know.
I know nobody expected that Detroit would even win that game. They thought Denver was going to go in because Denver had a pretty good hot streak going on at the time. And I think they won like 6 out of the last 5 games, and they were on a roll. And that was with Russell Wilson. And then they came in there and they just got blasted by the Lions. It was like, and I think that was it had a lot to do with defense. I think defense set the tone early against Denver. Kind of remind me of what Seattle did to Denver in the Super Bowl. They came at Denver real early and
Peyton Manning. Yeah, the Peyton Manning Broncos.
Was that the Peyton Manning? Yeah. Peyton Manning. But yeah. So like I said, the defense does have to improve, be top 10 at least. Like I said, bear any major injuries to any major positions. Aaron Glenn's, this is his make it or break it year. If he doesn't, if that team is not in the top 10 in defense, he is not doing a good job. He's got all the pieces there. I mean, like I said, even with Reeder, if Reeder goes out for a second, we should have guys that come in there and take over that secondary position and run in there. Then you got, I'm not even putting anything on the linebackers because obviously the linebackers are the weakest part of our team right now, and they're not depending on the linebackers because we're going to do a lot of I think we're going to do a lot of nickel and dime formations because we're going to have enough cornerbacks to cover that and good cornerbacks to cover that. So I don't think we're going to be playing too many 11 on 11 drills where we don't have, we're just playing man coverage. We're going to play man coverage, but in a nickel and in a dime. We might play very rare. We'll play zone. This is another thing that people are not realizing about the Lions. Last year, we had too many zone corners. We didn't have enough man corners out there. The man corner that we did have was out for the year, which was Mosley. And we forced Sutton to go from a CB2 to a CB1, and CB1 is usually a man guy. So and CB2 is usually pretty good for zone and man, but he wasn't a man coverage. Obviously, he wasn't man coverage.
Just say it. No. You didn't have to use the word coverage. He just wasn't a man. Let's just keep it 100, man. Let's just keep it 100. His play. He left a lot on the plate, man. And of course, he had his off-season issues. And again, this is one of those guys you said that they brought in. He had a decent resume. But then they were like, "Yo, wait a minute, what are you doing here?" He's at the practice facility with a whole warrant. And again, I'm not knocking the guy. We all have our demons we battle, but you could just tell something was off in that San Francisco game. You could just tell he wasn't completely confident. He had some plays where it was like, "Oh wow, okay, he." And then I believe you brought it up. Aaron Glenn switched the coverages. Maybe he was asking him to do a little more because of that first half
I don't know
success.
what
Maybe
Aaron was trying to do in
maybe
that
Aaron
second
Glenn was
half.
like, right. Aaron Glenn was like, "Oh, okay, you're locking him down." So
He was playing more zone coverage in that second half. He was playing like a more of a prevent zone
yeah,
because they had that lead. And I don't know why Dan didn't notice that and say, once they started getting burned deep and stuff, because Sutton was doing well when he had help
over the
behind
top.
him.
Right. I
And he
remember you
didn't have
saying
any help behind him because they switched to help. So there
Yep.
was they had a one safety zone going on with, four or five corners
Right.
out there.
Right.
And they were playing prevent zone basically the whole rest of the game. And they were dependent on their defensive line to come through and smash. But, when you change the coverage like that, that works if they don't have time and you're playing close man coverage and you're not playing them stupid zone coverages all the time, especially with a corner that's not used to having zone, not playing zone in the first place. So I can't blame Sutton totally for that. I mean, he did have his moments during the regular season too, where he was getting burnt by receivers all the time. Hell, if it wasn't for the fact that Jimmy G couldn't throw the football to Devontae, Devontae would have had about 3 touchdowns because Sutton was nowhere around Devontae in any of those frames that he missed the ball. I was like, damn. I was like, if Jimmy G could get the ball in the control and get it right to Devontae, that was goodbye. That was a touchdown. That game would have been a whole hell of a lot closer. We might have even lost that game. It's those kind of little things tell you stuff. It's I remember the first game that we had with the Dan Campbell regimen where we played Baltimore. And Baltimore, everybody talks about the field goal, the 64-yard or 67, whatever the hell it was,
Justin
field goal.
Yep.
But that game was closer than it should have been.
Yeah,
Hollywood
Tucker.
Brown dropped 3 touchdown passes where he was wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, wide open. Dude was so wide open, I could have caught. If I was that wide open, I would have caught the football. That's how wide open he was. And he didn't come through for it because he couldn't catch the ball. And that had nothing to do with how Lamar was throwing. Lamar threw it right to him. He just dropped the ball. And it's those kind of things, those little nuances in the game that can separate you from being a good team from being a bad team. And that's what the Lions went through in the second half of that San Francisco game. They went through every nuance that was bad to prevent them from winning that game.
Yeah,
and they still lost that game by a field goal. That's what I'm saying.
We saw chinks in the armor, man. Like we did. We saw Aaron Glenn fumble the bag. We saw Ben Johnson fumble the bag. We saw the players fumble the bag. We saw fundamentals get thrown out the window as soon as they faced some adversity. And I believe this year, everybody watched that game more than once after last year. And they were like, man, you have a couple of players who are young, believe it or not, and Penei Sewell and, maybe even Brian Branch to kind of tell these guys, you guys know how close we were last year. You guys know if we would have just did a little bit, and of course, Jared Goff, I'm sure. So it's like those characteristics of Dan Campbell are starting to rub off on these players. You're starting to see it in Penei Sewell. You're starting to see it in the youth, really, because they realize like we're going to be here for the long run. And if we don't establish what Dan's trying to do now, by the time these vets leave this team, we're not going to have the identity. Because right now they have the perfect blend of vets and rookies. But the rookies, believe it or not, are just they're you can have them slightly above or slightly below the vets, but they're literally right there. And it's happened so quick. You talk about a franchise who was we were obscurity for the past 20 years, man. Like when we had Calvin and Sue and Jim Caldwell, those were our glory days, believe it or not. And we still were only winning 9 games.
Yeah,
We
and
still were
on top
getting
of that, you got to remember something too. We never had the management or the coaching staffs that
no.
were measured against the teams that we had. The teams like the one that got us to Dallas and we got screwed in Dallas on that team. Had we had better upper, I believe that we had better coaching all across the board. I'm not just saying with the head coach, but with everybody across the board, and better ownership.
Right.
We would have won that. We would have went to the Super Bowl that year
Yeah,
because we had that
absolutely.
team. The team
Yeah.
had a top 10 defense and like a top 6 or 7 offense.
Yeah,
And
it was
Stafford was
incredible.
balling out.
Right.
So I mean, hey, Calvin, we had Ndamukong Suh,
Oh,
we had Cliff Averill, we had a hell of a defense. We had Nate
man.
Burleson. We
Man.
had I think that was Golden Tate's first year. Yeah, it was Golden Tate's first year or second
Yeah.
year.
And I believe we still had Trusty Leg and Hanson or Prater. We had
we
one
had
of that.
Prater. We had
Right.
Prater.
Yeah. So
And our offensive line was pretty fair. It was pretty good. It
yeah,
wasn't the best. It wasn't like
right.
this offensive line, obviously, but it still was a good offensive line. And Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush ran for 1,000 yards that season.
Yeah, the guy was fun to
But
watch, man.
yeah, I mean, and then after that he just fell off. But I mean, 1,000 yards, and you had 1,000 yards running back, and you had one of the top receivers to play the game. You got a great quarterback back there. You have a pretty good offensive line. Hell, Pettigrew was a decent tight end. You had good. You had a good. Yeah, he was a decent.
Yeah,
tight
he
end.
was all right. Yeah, no,
I
you
wouldn't say.
give you that.
He wasn't. The porta potty, but he
No.
was definitely a decent tight end.
Yeah,
And then the receiver core was what got us. I mean, like I said, I think that was the first year with Golden Tate and Calvin Johnson playing together. Nate Burleson was the third
right.
receiver in
Right.
that game.
Right.
So, I mean, they had to play. But like I said, it's everything's got to come together, and that's what I see in this Lions team
It
that we have
does.
right now.
Right.
Good coaching staff. The ownership wants to win. They don't want to be a laughing stock anymore. The players, they're drafting these players and getting these players based on what the coaching staff is. Grit.
Right.
So as long as they got that, I mean, we're having a little shaky preseason and training camp with these injuries and stuff like that, giving us heart failure every 5 seconds. But at the same time, if these people come together in a regular season and they play, and these number ones play well and bar without injury, now granted that the bye week being the fifth game, fifth week
Yeah,
of the
we
season
always
is
you would
but
like it to be a little later in the year, of course, but yeah.
I would
But look,
think that at that time, people that are still battling training camp injuries or exhibition, preseason injuries, they'll get better, and week 5 will make them even stronger.
right,
So you can
right.
look at it as a good and a bad thing. But yeah, it's everything just is coming together, I think, right for the Lions.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there's we were worried about whether or not Decker was going to get a deal, and that was put to rest. We were worried about whether or not Panay was going to get a deal, put to rest. Amon-Ra put to rest. Jared Goff put to rest. So I think those players alone, those guys are vocal leaders. Maybe not so much Jared, but he has shown quite a bit of an emotion with the success of this team last year. And I think it's all due to, like you said, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. It's like this kid was basically tossed to the side because of the team that drafted him felt like he wasn't the guy to get him over that hump. And he goes to Detroit of all teams, of all teams. He goes to Detroit, and it was a match made in heaven. Now I would like to see a little bit more from him this year too. He had some games last year where he turned the ball over and wasn't, he put us in positions where he turned the ball over, and I get it. You get hit, you're a quarterback. But I want to see him put the team on his back and be a true captain and be like, look, we got this. You know what I mean? And he showed glimpses of that last year. But obviously, one half away from the Super Bowl. We're going to need those guys this year because I believe we're going to have a couple of games like that this year, where we're gonna have to rely heavily on this O-line, and these players that did get paid. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna have to rely on Goff at some point in this season. Maybe our backs, maybe they got the run game snuffed out, and if he keeps throwing completions, he gets in that hot streak like he was last year. I remember, I think he had a game where he completed 9 straight completions. We're going to need him to do that more than once this year to get these guys going, to get this stagnant. Sometimes these guys are stagnant. Sometimes they need, you need to be in rhythm to get these guys going. He needs to be the guy to do that. And
right.
A lot's going to fall on his shoulders this year, man. Because now I think teams know what we have in these two backs. So I think he's going to have to be lights out this year. And I think we'll be talking about him as far as MVP. If we get back to that 32, 35 points per game, it's going to be because Goff has thrown, 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think he's going to get back to that now that he doesn't have that contract, whether or not he's going to get picked up looming over him. I kudos to this front office, like you said, the competency of this front office for getting those deals done, because that takes a lot off of you, man, mentally. Now, and he just got married too, so he's here, man. He's here. Our boy Goff is here. So I think this year, I think he's going to be our offensive MVP. I think if our success is going to totally ride on him. And it's probably cliched to say that, but it's going to ride totally on him. He can't have interceptions. He can't have turnovers, fumbling the ball, and he's got to take command of this offense. He's got to be like, look, okay, I'm here now. You know what I mean? I ain't got to worry about nobody. This is my team now. So now let's see what Goff does. Let's see what Ben Johnson does as well, man. We can't have those third quarters like that, man. You know what I mean? We got to be right. 14 points a quarter, man. Why not? It sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, 14 points.
They score 28 points a game. That'd be fine for me because it can either go up. 28 points is about what you need to do is to win games. 28 points.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you, Reporting Eligible Podcast. I get it. Yes, we are trying to do so. Thank you. That's our first comment. Came in like an hour and a half in our show, but that's
we
okay.
appreciate
I
it, man.
Take it. We do appreciate
we appreciate
that. Thank
man.
you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we're gonna go kind of like in the present and into the future here. So what do you want to see? What is your expectations, or what do you want to see against the Chiefs coming up in this next exhibition game?
Okay, I'm gonna be okay. I got 2 things I want to see. Right, I got 2 things I want to see. I want to see Bates. I want to see them try a ridiculous field goal with him. It's preseason. I get it. I want to see I want to see a Justin or what was his name, Tucker. I want to see one of them kind of field goals, man. In the elements, I want to see him. Okay, 68 yards.
I will tell
Let's see what you
if
got.
This dude can kick a 67-yard field goal outside.
Yes, sir. That's what I want to hear.
In a enemy stadium.
Yes,
dude. You won't hear me say anything more negative about Bates. I will not say nothing. I will say you sign him immediately right there. I want you to sign him for 2-3 more years because he's going to be our kicker. He's our Jason Hanson, our Eddie Murray. He's that guy.
If we could get that, if we can get that from him, that would be phenomenal. Right. And then of course, special teams. I don't think they put the special in it last week. So we know.
Well, the person that wasn't special was Maurice Alexander.
Yeah, but Phipp,
okay.
We know Phipp's got some guys who are just itching to touch that football. So remains to be seen whether or not we get a rookie back there or another, like you said, a wide receiver, a running back who they know is not going to get as much touches as a starter or as a backup. But yeah, that special team needs to basically, especially if you got Sudfeld playing. This guy needs the freaking bumpers in the bowling alley lane, man. Like, you got to get him at the 10-yard line, man. Maybe he can stretch the ball over, but this guy needs so much help.
I don't know if I would even want to watch him play. I might cut off the TV for a couple of minutes when he's on the field. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him out there. I want Jake Fromm to go nuts on him. That's what I just go out there and throw 15 for 30 or at least 50% and get like 2 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? And,
That would
and
be
make
nice.
Sudfeld's just go away.
That would be nice. But yeah, I would definitely love to see the special teams set up this offense, especially if Sudfeld's behind the center. But to your point, I don't want Sudfeld making the team either. So I guess I guess I would just like to see the special teams be special and score or show me that they can.
Even if with Sudfeld, even if I saw him do better, and which ain't too much, you can't do better in the next week than you did the last week. If he plays better and he does that for a consistent 2 preseason games, I might cut him some slack. I might cut him some slack.
I might still cut him,
but I'm still cheering for Fromm.
Yeah, I might still cut him. I might still cut him.
I'd still trade for Adrian Martinez. I don't care what nobody says. I'd still trade for him. UFL MVP. The dude he played phenomenal in the Jets preseason game. He was the last quarterback to play. He didn't throw an interception. He didn't throw a touchdown either. But the point, he was very convincing in his quarterback debut. And it was the thirds. True enough. But whatever.
Right.
If you can't play, he was playing like he should be in the 2s or maybe the 1s. The way he was playing in that game. So I just don't want to see if Sudfeld fails, fall on your face, get rid of him. If he does the same stupid stuff that he did in the last preseason game, this preseason game, I'm telling you right now, Dan Campbell's going to be like, you know what? I gave you a second chance. You fell on your face again. You're a 7-year veteran. You shouldn't be making rookie mistakes. You got to go. Yeah, don't let Jake Fromm even have a decent type of game. He don't even have to have a spectacular game. He can go out there and the 6 for 7, 6 for 12 even, and throw a TD pass. Know that it looks like he knows how to run the offense. As long as he has those qualifications going for him, he'll be the 3rd string quarterback. This is not a battle for Hooker's position. Hooker's got 2nd string sewed up. I think a lot of people are. This is the reason why they want to sign Tannehill. No, Tannehill's not the answer. He wants starting money. First of all, he wants to start. He wants starting money. No, and he's a garbage quarterback. I'm sorry. He's not as bad as Sudfeld, true enough. But I'm not going to pay a guy that much money to be a little bit better than Sudfeld. No, not doing that. Not doing that at all. Nope.
Flip side, what would you want to see against the Chiefs? I'm sorry. Flip side.
The flip side, I probably would like to see better run defense. Much better run defense. Now, of course, the Chiefs are going to be playing their 1, so I'm going to give them a little bit of break on that. As far as you know, what I want to see from the coaching staff in general, I want to see them go balls to the wall. I want to see them to let the players play, have fun out there. You know, there's no really set play. Ben Johnson can go ham in his playbook offensively to say, these are plays I probably would never have in a real football game. I'm just going to have them go out there and chuck the ball. That's what I want you to do. Let the receivers, let these guys earn these playing times. Let the offensive line block well for the quarterback so the quarterback can chuck it down the field. I want to see Vaki start. And I don't want to see Craig Reynolds until the second half. I think that he got his chance to do what he needed to do, and running the ball against the Giants, even during the 2-a-day. I mean, the joint team practice, Lions were running up and down. Now, again, granted, it was a lot on the 1st string, but the 2nd and the 3rd string were running on them too. So I don't understand how the roles reversed last weekend.
Yeah, I don't
last Thursday, but I can't see that. No, I want to see some running. I want to see some blocking and some running. I want to see. I'm not worried about. Like I said, the only thing about the defense I want to see straighten up is the run game. I think they're pretty solid as the secondary is concerned. I think they might be challenged a little bit. Of course, they won't have to face Marquise Hollywood Brown because he's not going to be playing because he's got a shoulder injury. He might
Right.
not. He might not play game 1 of the regular season. They're still looking into that, which is unfortunate because he's a dynamic player if he's used right. He's going to be like the Tyreek Hill that they didn't have, I guess.
Oh boy.
I don't know.
Oh,
He
boy.
might be he ain't as fast as Tyreek. He's just a smidge slower. Like
You don't have,
if it was a Madden, Tyreek is 99 and Brown is 98.
yeah, to be fair. Yeah, he can't catch though. I mean,
but I want to see. Like I said, I don't care. Like every preseason game, I don't care who wins or loses the game. A lot of people stand, well, if they win, they have that winning. They already have that culture. They already have a winning culture. They don't need to win a preseason game to get that culture or confidence. What they need to do is go out there and see what they could do. They got these, rookies and the players that they brought in. They need to see, evaluate them. That's what you got to do. But I just want to see the coaching staff just be looser with play calling. That's all.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
No injuries. I don't want to see any more injuries either.
Yeah, no injuries. And again,
No
we do need to see. I do want to see some other stuff from Ben Johnson because we know how Andy Reid can call a game. And I think Kansas City Chiefs are still licking their wounds from that season opener last year where we beat that ass. So for him to be saying, "Oh, I'm gonna start my starters," and Dan Campbell's like, "All right, you are, but I'm not," whatever. I think they're still stinging from that because they raised the banner and we spanked them.
I mean, there's a different perspective on both sides of that coin because we'll say they didn't have 2 of their extraordinary players in that game. They didn't have Kelsey and they didn't have what's his face, the defensive tackle, Chris Jones. Didn't have him. Yeah. So they didn't have 2 of their star players on that team. We still won by a point. But the fact of the matter is, Lions fans will say, well, you play who you play. That's what it is.
Right.
Kansas City said, well, we're not too worried about that because you won by a point and we didn't have our star players on. Yeah, we went to the Super Bowl and we still didn't have 2 of our players on there. We would have beat your ass if that was the case. Yeah. It's all wood and good. I understand that. But looking at in between the lines, between Kansas City and you, it is true. You play who you play at the time that you play them. So if they had injuries, that's not our fault.
Brian Branch,
not our fault.
Got his first pick. That wasn't due to any injuries.
Yeah, that was due to Kadarius Toney not being able to throw. I mean, able to catch.
Yeah, right. He still threw. He still got the ball. He made a play on it. But yeah, again, these are always fun matchups right here, man. Yeah. The defending Super Bowl champs, preseason or not. I think, like you said, these guys are going to be up for it. Again, these are the third stringers, fringe second stringers, fourth stringers, guys. They're going to be up to the task. They know they're out and against the Giants was a little Sudfeld, a little sucky. He's going to be an adjective from now on until he proves me wrong. But yeah, he very suddish, if you want to say that. But even him, like you said, man, a 7-year vet, you have to lead by example, man. These rookies are like, okay, how are you still on this team? I know there were some rookies looking like, how the hell is he still on this team? Who is this guy? You know what I mean? To be fair, we demand different from our QBs, and 7-year starter or vet, you've got 2 cracks at it with the Lions. It's like, you can't come out and, act like as if you're not going to be cut. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they brought Fromm in. I can't wait to see what he does. And like you said, I'll start Fromm over him because I didn't like where he got 3 quarters last week and we only got 3 points. What the fuck? You know what I mean? That's alarming.
He had 96 yards total and an interception.
You played almost 4 quarters, bro. The series that Hendon Hooker was in there, he was marching. He strung together some throws. He had some nice zip on the ball, nice velocity. Again, okay, they were saying it was a dumbed down playbook, but still, whenever he was out there, he made the most of his situation, but I can't wait to see what Fromm does. I think it's going to be better than what we got from Sudfeld. And like you said, leave Sudfeld on the sideline. Put the damn put the headphones on him and let him see.
I mean, I want him to go out there. So if he fails again, then his doom is certain.
Yeah.
But I think the thing about the Lions in these first two games of the preseason is these teams that they're playing have a bone to pick with them. Because last year the Lions did kind of dominate the Giants in 2 days, and they kind of pushed them around, and that's what you saw with all the fights going on this year. Giants are like, hey, we know you're Super Bowl contenders. We're going to try to beat you whatever way we possibly can. And like the preseason game, Giants friends of mine are like, oh yeah, we won the game. I said it's a preseason game. It don't make a difference. It matters. It matters.
You know what? To be fair, I'm pissed off too because they gave Brian DeBall the coach of the year, and I was kind of bitter it didn't go to Dan. And then of course now they got the Hard Knocks too. Again, I feel like that should have went to us, but again, hey, it's
they only give Hard Knocks to the losers. They don't give them to the winners. That's why we had it the first year,
right? We had the preseason Hard Knocks. But yeah, it was But yeah, shout out to those guys. But it's, again, NFC opponents, man, you guys are going to be, I know we're gonna get their best game, because people are going to be testing us, man. Because there's no way the Lions are this good.
I'm telling you, the game that I'm looking forward to, and Kansas City is another team that's going to have a chip on their shoulder and try to attack the Lions as much as possible because they knew they lost that first game. They might have won a Super Bowl. They might say we lost the battle, but we won the war, kind of thing. Right. So I mean that might, but they're still going to be bitter about some of that stuff. And Patrick Mahomes hasn't beat Goff in his whole career.
In two teams,
two different teams. Yeah. And on top of that, but the game that I'm looking forward to is the last game of the preseason of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh doesn't have anything against us, and we don't have anything against Pittsburgh. You're talking about one of the greatest coaches in the NFL with Mike Tomlin. Yeah, he's going to be there. We're going to see what Arthur Smith is going to be able to do on their offense. But I'm telling you right now, they probably would. They would probably switch. Arthur Smith with Ben Johnson in a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. Interesting.
Because the whole big thing about Pittsburgh is this Ayuk trade over the offseason. Now Ayuk, from the last report that I saw, he is trying to bargain with San Francisco to get for the money thing. So I think what he's trying to do in San Francisco is falling into that trap, or they're also participating in, is trying to set the market. And Pittsburgh is just the team that they're setting the market for. So every time they come to Pittsburgh with an offer, Pittsburgh gives them their offer, and they tell Ayuk, well, we can do better than that, money wise. Don't worry about that. And see, I don't think Pittsburgh has the resources or the money right now to really give him what he needs, maybe eventually, but not immediately. And really San Francisco don't either. And the only teams that could probably do that right now are the Lions, Washington. And he wanted to go to Washington put themselves out of the transition. I think he wanted to go to Washington to play with his buddy, Jaden Daniels. But again, Pittsburgh will be a focus. And if they do work out a trade and he's on that team, I am sure by that time he'll be acclimated in training camp. And like I said, I believe that DC will play starters for at least 1 or 2 series in that game. He will, so he can knock the rust off a little bit and get people implemented into the game so they can get the taste of football in their mouth again. So I think that's going to come down to that. That'll be an interesting game for me to see. So hopefully no more injuries.
Yeah, my game, it would probably be Dallas. Week 4 or 6. That's going to be the game I'm most looking forward to. The regular season, of course, Jerry's World, and we always get some. It's always some kind of drama there, man. So yeah. If you were GM, okay, name one player you would go after right now if you were a GM, and what would you give up for them?
Yeah, we had this conversation a little bit earlier in the show. I put out there Matt Judon and Hasim Reddick as
Yep.
two candidates right now because they're both really unhappy with their teams. Like I said, I probably want to choose Reddick right now, and you know, I'd pay Reddick. Reddick is younger than Judon. He's got more of an upside than Judon does, and I don't know how much I would give up as far as a draft pick is concerned. But if he, if we promise to pay him, and I know we'll pay him if he comes here, because the Lions aren't like the Jets are stringing him along. He's missing money every time he's not out there. So it's about like $1 million that he's off in fines right now. So I don't know. I would pick Hassan Reddick right now. If I was a GM and I needed that kind of help, I would definitely go after him. And I would probably give up maybe Hassan. I'd probably give up like the highest I would give up was a second round pick, because he's that type of a player. But if I can get away with just giving a third round and a seventh round, I'll do that too.
Ripping a second round.
And as soon as he gets on a team, pay him. That's what you do.
Yeah. See, my guy would be we've been on the Jerry's world this whole time. I would do CD Lamb. Again, another guy who's kind of over Jerry's world. And I feel like another guy who would be an immediate it would help this offense immediately, man, because now you can't just zero in on, Amon-Ra or Laporta. Now you have the three-headed monster plus Jameer and Montgomery, who can both catch as well. I think that would be Jared Goff's dream come true, man. That would be insane to see out there.
But if you look at it like this, though, that's gonna put a hamper in J-Mo's growth, because now he's gonna be he'll be the number 3. But I mean, he's not a number 3 type of. He's not a slot corner. I mean, Amon plays all the roles of whatever. I mean, wide receiver. He plays all the roles of the wide receiver. So, because CD Lamb's going to be a 1. Yeah, because he's just that type of a player.
Right.
Amon would probably hit the 2 and the 3. But see, J-Mo really only has purpose for the 2. I mean, he does those end arounds, but he's a fast guy. You don't usually use slot guys that are fast. So those guys that can fly down the field, you use them as a 1 or a 2. You don't use them as a 3. Slot guys, all they do is do a couple of route, does a curl route or goes sit in the flat and has the quarterback throw the ball to him, or comes across. Does streaks across the field along the offensive line. So you want to sit there and evaluate that kind of a trade to see where it would lead J-Mo at, because J-Mo would be, after he's worked his ass off in training camp, to see another guy come in there and just automatically take a number 1 spot, and now he's like, he don't know where he's going to be at. That's
not. But to be fair, you're talking about Ben Johnson, who would be. So if you line both of those guys up on the opposite sides of the field, and then you got Amon-Ra there, slot. You got Amon in the slot, and then you got Laporta, you have to double. One of those guys are going to get off, and eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to be like, okay, we can't get beat deep, so now you have an Amon-Ra game, and then there's going to be other teams who don't have the middle. Who don't have guys in the middle, and they're going to trust their guys, they're going to trust their corners. But I think it would be, to your point, I see where you're going with it, but I think it would be more rewarding for him to at least get CD Lamb, get that number 1, true number 1 guy to,
I don't think Amon would be as effective even with that, because, again, CD Lamb is somebody that demands to get the ball, and not vocally. It's just the guy is a specimen. So right. He's like, it's like having Justin Jefferson on our team. You're not going to be, you just can't not throw the ball to him and think everything's going to be okay. I mean, that would be some juggling.
Yeah, I think with enough attempts from Goff, You know, if he's up there throwing 40 times, I think there's enough to go around, man. Even if you get six targets a game. I mean, so let's say for instance, CeeDee Lamb gets us all the way down there, and then you do an end around with JMO. Or is he still gonna feel that? Is he still gonna feel that prestige because he scored a touchdown? Versus, okay, they didn't throw it to me all this whole time. I don't know. But again, this is my Madden, my ultimate Madden team. Yeah. And I the most I would give up for CeeDee Lamb would be a 3rd round pick. If they want more than that,
Yeah.
I'm out the conversation, man. I'm sorry. Because
Right.
I'm on Rife. Round 4?
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's produced just as good as right.
CeeDee Lamb. Yep. They're both top 5 receivers.
Yep. So like I wouldn't reach for him. Like, and that's one thing about this Lions front office. They don't reach. They go, hey, he's worth this, and this is why he's worth this. So
I think that leads into
Brad
this
Holmes.
question. This question too: would you sign Sue to retire him a Lion and have an extra vet? Would it be worth a potential culture mismatch? I don't think they would ever sign Sue. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. I think Sue would have to come in like an honorary Lion, but again, he didn't make the magnitude that Calvin Johnson did. Like, it was there, and unfortunately, the front office at the time felt like he wasn't worth it. And believe it or not, to me, I would love to have kept Sue, but I think right now, honestly, this is a new day for them boys, and I think the reason they brought Megatron back was because, like Barry, he was that guy who gave everything for the city, man.
Yeah, Kelvin was great. Yeah,
you're right. He gave everything. You talk about a guy who just.
He's talking more. I mean, we brought Kelvin back because we owed him that. They owed him big time.
Yeah.
And on top of that, but adding Sue to be a Lion for a year, to be on a defensive line. I mean, I'd sign him for a day contract maybe if he wanted to retire a Lion. I wouldn't want him to do it after a Super Bowl either that he didn't earn. But he just doesn't. He's calmed down over the years, but he still don't fit the culture.
He's still not. He's still not this new Lion culture.
He's an angry guy, but he places his anger toward things that aren't.
You know what? I would love to see him come back in the announcer booth, because I think Golden Tate and that other guy were kind of meh. So I'd like to see.
You got to give him some time. Got to give him some time. Give him some time. Let them do their thing.
It was a snooze fest.
So we go into our last question of the evening. What's your win-loss prediction for the four regular season games? Now, the 4 regular season games that they have are, the first one is against the Rams, the second one is against Tampa Bay, and they're both at home. Then they go to Arizona, and then they come back home to play Seattle. Now, based on what I'm seeing here, I would say 4-0. I think Los Angeles is actually going to be a pretty good game. Unless if their offensive line comes back, they got a lot of injuries on their offensive line right now. I don't know how that's going to transition to the first game of the season, but I think if they don't come back, then Detroit's going to smoke the Rams. But if they come back, I think this is going to be a decent battle, because they do have a pretty good running back there. It's also going to be a homecoming for Blake Corum. Stafford is going to be there. Obviously, we got that whole history with Stafford. But their defense is young.
Right.
And I think with this Ben Johnson offense, I don't think if you have a young defense, they ain't ready. They ain't gonna be ready for that one.
Right. No, I think to your point, I think it's gonna be a blowout. I think that game, I'm almost for certain that game's a win. Like you said, I think it's going to be a blowout. I think we left points here at Ford Field during that Ram playoff game, and we know it. And the guys, like you said, the guys who've already played Stafford in this environment, they're going to crank up, man. They're going to be like, yo, this is a playoff game. It's going to be a playoff type atmosphere.
But to be fair on that point, though, they did have a better defense. Aaron Donald was there. Aaron Donald's a force.
Exactly, and he's not there.
he didn't do a lot of stuff in that game, but
Right.
Aaron Donald's the kind of player that he doesn't have to do impactful stuff like make a sack or
Right.
stop a run. What he has to do, if he can get two offensive linemen on him to free up somebody else, because that's what happened. And Goff did get sacked that game, but it wasn't by him.
Nope.
It was by that rookie guy. The guy, he's a good player too. One of the new players. He's a really good guy. So if they did that, and they don't have that advantage anymore,
Yeah.
they don't have that advantage anymore, then they are going to they're going to probably smoke that defense.
Yeah, I
Like
think
I
this
said,
is
they don't have. They
coming out
lost a
party.
couple. Yeah, they lost a cornerback too. So
Yeah,
they're
and
they're
Puka
not in good
Nacua,
shape.
everybody's gonna be licking their chops to guard this guy. I think everybody in the secondary is gonna be. I want a piece of him. I want a piece of him. Might see Branch on him. I think there was a lot of talk last year with this guy, and we got a guy similar to him in Amon-Ra, and I think they just shit. They're like, oh, he's unstoppable, and I was like, bro, you know what? You're right, and that's just because we don't have the guy who has the 42 to be like, nah, he don't get no more. You know what I mean? They moved him around the field quite a bit. But yeah, I think the Rams, it's going to be a playoff like atmosphere again. Stafford's been in the news lately for some, it's a little innocent. He basically just said, I was rooting
People
for
are
him
getting
at that
bent out of
point.
shape because
Right.
he's saying, look, hey, I don't play for this team no more.
Right.
And obviously the fans have made it clear that I don't play for this team anymore. So why should I give a damn if I watch you during the playoffs? I'm not rooting for you. You didn't, I don't expect you to root for the Rams. If we would have beat you, I wouldn't expect you to root for us either. And that day's long gone. I mean, we wanted to see Stafford get a Super Bowl because we feel he deserved it. But once he did that, with me, I'm a big Stafford fan. I've always been a Stafford fan, even after he left here. But my fandom has gone way down since he's left, or since he won the Super Bowl. I've been like, yeah, okay, whatever. Stafford did this, Stafford that, but who cares? Because I've been focusing on our team currently to see the growth that this team has. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Goff is making it. I said, first of all, Stafford didn't have any of what's going on right now in Detroit.
Hell no.
He didn't have any of this stuff.
Hell no.
So he would have flourished in this environment if he would have stayed with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Provided
absolutely.
that we still got the same draft picks and everything, whatever the case may be.
Same O-line. Even with this O-line,
the same O-line, he would have flourished in this O-line. So let's not get carried away about bashing him. At the same time, let's not get carried away in ogling him either.
No.
Stafford is Stafford. He plays for a different team now. Let it be. You can give him, cheer him or boo him, whatever you feel like you want to do. Don't disrespect him. That's not what I'm here to sell you to do. But you can be a fan. Be a fan and enjoy your fandom with the Lions, because we rarely get this opportunity to boo other people. So
this is true. So who do you think gets a pick that game? You think is Rickshaw or TA?
I think that
Stafford's a gunslinger. We know he'll try to force the ball in there.
I think Kirby might actually get an interception in that game, because he's always out proving these all-time great quarterbacks wrong. Because today is what Jeremy B. Smoking JB says. It's the 604th day. The last pass he threw was to Kirby. So there you go. This is the 604th day.
Yeah,
we're going to continue that tradition on this show too.
To
give you that check down list. In fact, maybe next time we come back on here, I'll have a ticker. That's how many days it's been. So yeah, I think Kirby might get that one.
So Rams is a win for sure.
Rams is definitely going to be a win. Tampa Bay might be different. Tampa Bay is basically bringing back the same amount of people. They got a pretty decent offensive line. Their defense didn't really fade out from what they had last year. The only thing is different is we got one of their players, which is Carlton Davis.
Carlton Davis.
So that's going to be interesting for Carlton Davis. That's going to be a homecoming game for him, because he's playing against his ex-team, and he's going to have a chip on his shoulder to prove. I hope that he's up to the covering Mike Evans. Mike Evans has been a consistent 1,000-yard receiver every year. Only receiver that's scored. I thought was this his 10th season, 9th, 10th, something like that. So, the dude is a baller,
Right.
and he'd be another guy I wouldn't mind seeing on the Lions because he's a grit guy too.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, Tampa Bay. I think we win that one by a field goal. I think that's going to be an all-out game. I think Mayfield is going to be kind of pissed off for the fact that they lost to us the last time, although they're coming back to the scene of the crime. So
And they
it
beat
might
the
not
Eagles.
and they beat the Eagles.
They
so
beat the what?
yeah,
That was personal. That was personal, man. That was yeah, I think Tampa went. I think we beat Tampa. Again, I'm kind of with you there. I think it's going to be under 7 points. Probably be 5 points. It'd probably be, like you said, a couple of field goals.
Be a touchdown to 3-point game that we win by. So Arizona, I'm not even going to entertain that one because Arizona just stinks right now. I mean, I know they're going to have Marvin Harrison, but see, this is the thing I want to see AG do. Okay. I don't want Carlton Davis guarding Marvin Harrison. I want Teron Arnold.
Or put him. Yeah, to your point, put different people on him every time.
Yeah, don't have a cornerback have one play one side of the field. Have your best cornerback. Have your best. Well, even in saying that, I'm not sure that Terrion Arnold can be considered better than Carlton Davis because he's a veteran. However, Carlton Davis does have some problems in man coverage against receivers that are fast. Now, Marvin Harrison is a fast guy. Terrion Arnold, we can say it can be as equally as fast as him because I've seen him play fast. He's got better skill too, and it's a rookie on rookie environment there. Exactly. So if you put this, let Terrion get his fill of that rookie there. Say, hey, I'm a rookie, you're a rookie. Who's going to be the better man coming off this field today?
Yes. Let the young boys rumble, man. That's what I say. Yeah. And I'm sure they've seen each other at school. I don't know if they played each other, but yeah, man. Like, welcome to the league. I'd like to see a handshake. But yeah, switch it up. Give Harrison different looks. Same with Mike Evans. Like you said, give him different looks. Don't just keep putting up because I don't do nothing but build confidence in the guy that's ultimately winning. Like if Mike Evans is constantly winning against Carlton Davis and you go, but he's my best corner. No, put the rookie on him. Mm-hmm. It's a rookie. So what? That's it. It's a learning experience for him.
Yeah, I think that's what AG needs to do this year too. Recognize who's getting beat out there and switch off on it. If you got plenty of cornerbacks to go to, there you go. Let's do a good job and say, hey, look, you ain't got it today. This guy is beating you. You could be the CB2. Let Terrion Arnold be the CB1. See what he can do. And if he gets beat, then that there's got to be some work to do on both corners.
That's it. Exactly. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
especially a rookie. It'd be like, okay, the rookie. Okay, look, Rook, you he caught 1 pass out of 8 when you were guarding him versus, Dave. Okay, he caught 4 out of 8. You know what I'm saying? And then they can learn from each other. And then he could be like, you know what I used to beat him. I went a little more physical on him right here. You know what I mean? It's like that's what it's all about, man. Because ultimately, like you said, we have those three dudes, the first 4 of the game. That's huge for our secondary, man. Because we haven't even got to Seattle yet. But like you said, Marvin Harrison, true number 1. Mike Evans, true number 1. Puka Nacua, true number 1. Like these guys they're gonna get the targets. So you got to switch it up. You got to give everybody a piece of them, man. So
now for the Monday night game against Seattle, DK Metcalf. I want the Lions to be beating him so bad that he quits because DK Metcalf will quit during a game if they're getting beat bad, or if you look at the Pittsburgh game that they played last year. Seattle had to win that game to stay in playoff contention. Pittsburgh came in there and beat the crap out of them.
Yeah, they beat the snot out of them.
And Metcalf was looking dumb, for the 3 quarters of that game because Pittsburgh was putting it on him. And Porter who's not a very, I mean, he's a good play, a good corner, was holding his own against Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
So in this instance, okay, let's not put Terrion Arnold or Carlton Davis on him. Put Rakestraw on him.
Yeah, right.
Because he's a tougher corner. Let's see what happens with this. Because usually when he plays physical corners, he's not really, his mind doesn't goes away from the game.
Right.
The guy that you'd have to really watch, though, that always has Seattle being sneaky is
Baldwin.
a Lockett.
Oh,
Lockett,
yeah.
And you would probably want to have Terrion Arnold lock him down. So
right.
it's going to be, it's going to be their corners versus our corners basically in a competition to see who can stop.
That's going to be fun, man.
It's going to be fun. Yeah.
That's going to be a fun game.
And remember that guy was the head coach of the McDonald. That was the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Was also the defensive coordinator of Baltimore. And what happened when we played Baltimore last year? We got our ass kicked. But he's in a head coaching role now, not a defensive role. And he'll probably be familiar with some of the sets that Ben Johnson runs.
Of course.
We played against him last year. So we got to be wary of that.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I think that's another game that'll probably be a 7 to 3 point game too. But I still win it.
I think so. I think that's going to be the running backs. That's going to be up to the running backs. To your point, like you said, we don't want Metcalf out there too much. We don't want him getting in the rhythm. Let our guys run the ball. We're at home. Let the youngins eat. So I think that's going to be more of a running game. And I think Arizona's game, I think that's going to be a free-for-all, if we're being honest. I think that game is going to be anybody can get it. Hopefully we'll have Jared Goff sitting by the third quarter, and he'd be over there kind of laughing, kind of chuckling, and,
right.
Maybe we have one of those other guys, backup guys in.
Another thing is, I know we'll win this game against Seattle if Goff does not throw a pick six. The last two games we played against Seattle, he threw a pick six. Leave that alone, Goff.
Yes,
Stop
exactly.
throwing balls in all kinds of directions. Don't let that defensive line get you. That offensive line is going to have to protect you really good.
Exactly.
So let's not make no haste to throw that ball out of bounds.
And
I don't care if you throw it short of the damn line of scrimmage and get a penalty. Just don't throw it to them, so they get
exactly. And if you got to audible to a draw, so what? You know what I mean? Like if you feel like, I feel like the heat's coming, I just don't know where. Like you said, no more pick sixes, man. Those things demoralize the team, man, especially at home.
Especially against the same team twice in 2 years. Come on. But anyway, but he'll get it together, and I'm sure that Ben Johnson will understand that whole situation. I'm sure DC will make everybody aware of that situation because I'm sure he circled this game like, hey, we got to finally beat Seattle. Screw that. I don't care who the head coach is. We got to beat them because we haven't beat them in 2 years, and that's not happening no more. But anyway, we're going to wrap up the show. Next week, we will have the next 4 games of the season. It would be, I think it's Dallas. We got Dallas, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Tennessee, and Green Bay. So 2 division games are coming up in the next 4 that we're going to be talking about, and we'll see what our records are going to be, the same or different than they are. Me and Rumbles, that is.
Yeah. Also, probably the Chiefs post game.
Yep.
We're
going to be doing the Chiefs post game. We're going to have just about everything that we started off with today. Observations from practices, the preseason game versus the Chiefs, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the transaction report, stuff like that. We're going to always have that on here, at least for the preseason. Once we get into our regular season, we'll adjust some things, obviously. But we thank you for everybody who did watch. Not that there was many of you, but that's going to change over the course of time. We're just starting off, so we understand. We did kind of run a little bit over. But again, thank you for reporting Eligible Podcast. Thank you for coming on here, making comments, asking questions, and stuff like that. We greatly appreciate your participation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's a good friend, Trav, who that's another guy I'll be working with this year. So yeah, shout out to you, buddy. We appreciate it. And like B Strola said, man, we're gonna be back here every week, giving you guys energy. We're super juiced for this year's team, and we hope they finally lift Lombardi. And we would appreciate if you guys join us for the awesome adventure called the 2024-2025 season. Let's make it a good one. Thank all of you guys. Please subscribe. Please watch us. I will be sharing this. And yeah, man. Shout out to you, B Strilla, man. Awesome intro, by the way. Like I got to give you your flowers for that fire ass intro. I was ready to go lace them up. Man, I don't even own cleats. I was just gonna put on the J's.
That was a Dan Campbell intro.
Yeah, I was just gonna put on some J's and go run some post routes and moss it. Just throw it up. But yeah, man, shout out to you, man. Of course, as always, man. You always produce the graphics and everything, man. So shout out to you, man. This looks phenomenal. And I can't wait to do it this year, man. So shout out to you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Same to you, dear Uncle Rumble. It's been a pleasure to this point, and I'm sure we're going to have much more fun as the season goes on. Hopefully we get more people on here. Maybe we'll do some joint ventures with a lot of folks, including, the Reporting Eligible podcast. That would be great. I'm trying to get, I would like to get some ladies on here too.
Absolutely.
Yep. I had a couple that I came in contact with that are real avid Lions fans. So maybe we can get them on here during the preseason time, even during the season time. I do welcome anybody from any football team who's a fan of their team to come on here so we can chop it up and talk football, because that's what it's about. We love football. It's just that we're Lions fans. We don't really get to talk a lot about football in the past, but now we can. So let's chop it up. Let's talk stuff. Let's do all that. Because, this is nothing but the smoke. And again, I'm your host, B Strilla the Thriller, alongside with Uncle Rumble. Hey, have a good night.